Alan came up with a bombshell, big bombshell, dropped on Friday. Phil Mickelson, a pattern of misconduct.
There are certain moments in sports history that feel destined to be revisited. Chapters that the universe seems determined to reopen, whether the person at the center wants it or not. For Phil Mickelson, that moment arrived this June, when the U.S. Open returned to Shinnecock Hills for the first time since 2018, the exact course, the exact tournament where he chased down his own moving golf ball on the 13th green and swatted it back toward the hole in one of the strangest, most talked about breaches of etiquette the sport has ever seen. 8 years later, the championship came back to the scene of that moment, and Phil Mickelson simply wasn't there. Not injured, not suspended, not even attempting to qualify. He didn't file an entry, a 6-time major champion, a man who spent decades chasing the single trophy to complete a career Grand Slam, let the deadline pass without a fight. And if that were the entire story, it would already be a quietly devastating one. But it isn't close to the whole story, because 2026 has turned into the most difficult year of Phil Mickelson's public life, and it has almost nothing to do with his golf swing. Back in February, Mickelson announced he was stepping away from competition to deal with what he described only as a personal family health matter. He gave no further detail, and he hasn't elaborated since. He missed the Masters in April. He was briefly listed in the field for the PGA Championship at Aronimink in May, only to withdraw within hours of the announcement. He was absent from the U.S. Open at Shinnecock, and in the weeks that followed, his name quietly dropped off the entry list for the Open Championship at Royal Birkdale as well, meaning that for the first time since 1989, Phil Mickelson will miss every single major championship in one calendar year. His only competitive start of the entire season came at a single LIV golf event in South Africa back in March. That alone would be a sobering enough story. A legend's career winding down not with a farewell tour, but with silence. But running parallel to Mickelson's absence from the game is something far messier and far more serious. In June, Golf Digest published an investigation reporting that Mickelson had quietly lost his membership at the Farms Golf Club outside San Diego, a course he had belonged to and practiced at for years. According to the reporting, a female club employee accused him of unwanted and inappropriate physical contact before a round of golf that spring. The club says it investigated and confirmed he is no longer a member. Mickelson's camp has pushed back hard, calling it a misunderstanding that had already been resolved, and his attorney has disputed the specifics of the account. No criminal complaint was filed, but the club's own statement made clear the matter was taken seriously enough to end a relationship that had lasted years. Then it got bigger. In the weeks since that initial report, journalist Alan Shipnuck published a much deeper investigation built on nearly 20 sources, alleging that Mickelson had abruptly left or been asked to leave 3 separate golf clubs since 2021, not just one. Among the most serious claims to surface was an account from Ashley Perez, who was married at the time to tour veteran Pat Perez, alleging that Mickelson showed her an explicit photo and made an inappropriate advance during a tournament dinner back in 2015. Pat Perez has since spoken publicly about the fallout from that alleged incident, describing it as something he still hasn't forgiven. Mickelson's attorney has said some of the resurfaced allegations are false, and that others simply revisit mistakes Mickelson has already acknowledged in the past, publicly or privately. No charges have been filed in connection with any of it. Reporters have noted that the timing of Mickelson's Open Championship withdrawal lined up closely with the release of that deeper investigation, arriving quietly without commentary, as though he wanted to be gone from the conversation before the conversation got louder. It's worth sitting with how strange this all is, given who Phil Mickelson used to be in the public imagination. For most of his career, he was the counterweight to Tiger Woods, not the icy, hyper-controlled competitor, but the fan-friendly showman who signed every autograph, who talked to the gallery like old friends, who built an entire persona around being approachable. That image had already taken serious damage back in 2022, when private comments revealed his willingness to overlook Saudi Arabia's human rights record in exchange for using LIV Golf as leverage against the PGA Tour. Sponsors left. The public reaction was brutal. He disappeared from view for months, and when he came back, he was quieter, more guarded, clearly aware that something in how people saw him had shifted for good. On the course, the decline has been just as real. Since joining LIV Golf, Mickelson hasn't won a single individual title, and he has openly admitted in interviews that he's mostly catching glimpses of the player he used to be, that he's trying to be honest with himself about where his game actually stands. Now, at 56 years old, all of it has converged at once. A private family matter he still won't discuss. A club membership gone. A wave of resurfaced allegations he's actively fighting through lawyers. A major championship season wiped out entirely for the first time in nearly 4 decades. And somewhere underneath all of it, a U.S. Open that returned to the exact fairways where his most infamous moment happened, playing out this June without him anywhere near it. There was no ceremony, no final walk-up 18 with the gallery on its feet, no acknowledgement from the game he helped define for 30 years. 6 majors, 45 PGA Tour wins, a PGA championship at 50 years old that briefly made him feel invincible again. And now, an ending that isn't really an ending at all, just an absence growing quieter every month, while the sport moves on without seeming to notice it's happening.